A lot of things to talk about here closer to home here in Michigan today, as the Senate has approved a raise the age plan. Michigan, one of only a few states left where people under the age of 18 could be charged as adults for criminal activity. And that's being pushed back upon by people like my next guest, Senator Peter Lucido, State Senator of Michigan in the 8th District. Senator, how are you this morning?
Well, good morning, Steve, and good morning to listeners.
Good to have you here. All right, so you've been in state government for a number of years, and this is a plan. Criminal justice reform obviously has gained steam at the federal level under this president and some of the things that have happened, but now criminal reform here at the state level. What needed to change in your mind and why?
Well, over 30 years, I've been practicing criminal law. So I was a lawyer before I got to this Senate. And as a result, I also was a probation officer. I saw the youth coming in, and then I saw 17-year-olds charged as adults in this state. And I looked at how many states actually were charging 17 years old as adults. We are one of 4 states that are left on the books. And when our family court was established 15 years ago, child support goes until the child's 18th birthday. Then the child is considered an adult after 18. So they didn't even line it up right when they made the family court, because they said one family, one court. And the supervision over the parents will continue until that child turns 18, which means getting moms and dads to do the right thing by court order if they're not going to do it automatically as being parents. But here's the biggest thing. In this state, you cannot sit on a jury until you're 18. So if I have a 17-year-old asking for a jury of his or her peers, do they really get juries of their peers when they can't even serve on a jury until they're 18 years of age? You can't vote,
right?
Can't buy cigarettes, can't even go into the military unless you got parental consent, and you can't even get married without parental consent. So
now let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this, because I know, what the detractors are going to say. They're going to say, well, what about violent crimes? What if,
problem,
a 16,
Steve.
17-year-old
kid... I was waiting for you to say that. That's great.
Go ahead.
We have a waiver provision. The prosecutors are the ones that bring the charges. And the prosecutors are the ones that says this is murder, this is rape, this is sexual assault. You have a right as a prosecutor to waive that child at 12, 10, 9, up to adult court and try him as an adult. That waiver provision is untouched, and I don't want to touch it because the prosecution must bring the charges and prove those charges beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now, wait a second. I mean, if there's a waiver provision, then what do we need to do this overhaul for? Fair question.
I'm glad you asked that too, Steve. Last year, 7,000 17-year-olds were charged. Of that, 50% of that were traffic tickets. Charged as adults, went to the adult court where there's no services for the children. It's all punitive in nature. And they went ahead and just sui sponte paid a fine, slapped on the wrist by the judge. So now that's half of them. Another quarter of those were non-reporting probation because they were almost 18. So the judge said, you'll be out of high school. You better keep your nose clean until you get out of high school. The last quarter of them needed services, such as counseling, such as reporting probation, and a few of those kids went into the youth home. So why do we need this? Because long-term, Steve, we're going to have guppies put in a shark tank like we have been doing, and they turn out to be career criminals. And we are the largest state population of prisons, and now I'm realizing this state did the wrong thing years ago, back in the 40s, by allowing this to happen.
So basically what you're saying, Senator, is we're creating criminal training facilities.
You got it, and we're paying for it, too. The taxpayers are pulling the money out of the pocket faster than they can make it to put criminals in jail and warehouse them, because when you take a 17-year-old, put them in jail, and get them acclimated to the criminal system, that's all they really know. Their brains aren't fully developed, and that's the educational level that they're getting behind bars.
So what is how do you forecast this going through? Do you have support on both sides of the aisles? What do you think is going to happen?
1,000%. 5.5 years ago, this had bipartisan support. There were a couple legislators that we all sat down from the both sides of the aisle and said, look, why are we doing this? What's the impetus? How is this handled in other states, and why do they do it differently? And then we all realized, look at the cost and expense, because we all charted most of the ones that were in prison, and they all started when they were very young.
Well, I asked that.
I
it's a serious question. It's a serious question because in 2019, I'm hearing Democrats running for office all over the place, suggesting we lower the voting age in America to 16. And if you lower the voting age to 16, shouldn't that also be the age of adulthood? And it's a serious question. You can't have people voting at 16 and not prosecutable until they're 18. It seems like
I don't disagree with you, but I'm not a proponent of lowering the age to 16.
I didn't say you were. I understand that. I'm trying to figure out where the Democrats are going to come down on this. I think they have a bit of a problem.
Them. Why don't you wait a minute? Spend the time and ask them. You've got to ask me this question: does raise the age do something for this state? And if so, what's it going to do?
Great
it's
question.
To be a better system, and it should have been done when the juvenile court and the family court got together and called the family court. That's when the supervision should have started.
All right. So in the long run here, these 7,000 17-year-olds charged as adults. What happens to them in the future? Where do we go from here?
I'm going to tell you what you're going to see. First of all, the resources from the prosecutor's office can be shifted down to the juvenile division. You're going to see that those 17-year-olds, you're going to see less recidivism rates of those young offenders because by 18, when they get out of high school, they'll go into the military. They'll automatically go to college, some of them. Some of them will take full-time jobs. Some will go career orientation. You're going to see a big change because once you end up in the criminal court as an adult, it's a Ferris wheel because there is no programs, there is no parental supervision. The parents could have two children in a car committing the same crime, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old right now. One's going to adult court, one's going to juvenile court. And they had outcomes like this with children looking at who came out differently, determinative outcomes. I'm telling you now, with the parents being in the family court and the judge saying, you're ordered to take your child to this counseling, you're ordered to take this child to substance abuse, there's no turning back. The parents must be stepping up their game and become parents again.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we could discuss in that realm. I think that parents do need to step up and be parents again. Senator
Agreed.
Peter Lucido here, State Senator of Michigan for the 8th District. And, Senator, I'll give you the last word.
Well, I just want to know that there's fairness in the justice system. Being a lawyer for over 30 years before coming up to Lansing, I realize there's justice reforms in the criminal arena, and I'm very proud to see that this package went through the Senate on its way to the House, and it should have no problem getting to the governor's desk because it's the right thing to do, Steve.
And I'll tell you this, Senator, showing that we have compassion, we have forgiven you for being a lawyer for 30 years on the program. So, we have forgiven you here, Senator, and allowed you to come on.
Well, at least the justice system on the radio this morning is compassionate.
There you go, my friend. Senator, always good. Have a great day.
You too. Take care, Steve, and take care, listeners.
There you go. Great conversation. Senator Peter Lucido,